So, LDAR files, how do they work? You might have already seen in the retail version SCUS 94236, there's a folder called sys, and inside it there are these LDAR files. Now, the best we know is that LDAR stands for load area, but I think it should stand for load area resources or something. But nonetheless, you might have already seen my unLDAR tools output, which is a bunch of folders, and in the folders there's a base folder and the entry folders. Now, in this case, the LDAR 0 represents the LDAR 0 binary file, and in turn the base and the entries represent the areas and the sections. So in this case, area 0, village of all beginnings, section 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These are, well, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These are sections of area 0. So if you want to see the collision and the sprites and whatever of the old pond, you just go to LDAR 0 entry 5, which is, well, area 0 section 5. But how do you actually make these folders? It's a pretty interesting file format, but I'll try to explain it best I can. So let's take LDAR 13 for example, because that's the smallest one. As you can see, there's only the base folder and 2 entry folders, and I think the 13 is, yeah, Pig Island, the outer walls of Pig Island, which is Flower Tower, and the ending. So, first things first, you open the LDAR 13 in a hex editor. I don't have it here. In a hex editor, and adjust your width to 4, 8, 7, 10, hex 14, and you see a pattern, and it doesn't make a lot of sense, but if you have a sharp eye, you've already noticed 3 distinct sections, which is delimited by an FF here and zeros for the rest of the row. So base, entry 0, entry 1. Never mind these, they're just pointers, 3 pointers in fact, which point to these 3 entries. But anyway, let's look at this in a much more neat environment. So I've done this thing in Illustrator, which is I've laid the bytes down. So we've got all the bytes here. So I'll just make a few layers so you get what I mean. Yeah, so the first 4 bytes are called ignore, That's why I've whited them out. Actually, these should be ignored too. Oh well. The first 4 bytes are ignored. I don't think they serve any purpose, and unless I'm mistaken, I actually talked to Snake about this and he said that they don't mean anything. The next word, 2 bytes, is the file number. The file number. 36C, 36D, 36E, 36F, and 370. Now, always remember the endianness, which is little, so you gotta read these backwards. But if we were to read the first file of the first entry, it would be file number 36C, and it's a file type 10FF. You can ignore the RAM pointer too. It doesn't make a lot of sense in this context, but all you gotta really worry about is the file number, the file type, and these last 4 words. But let's continue. So file number is 36C, file type is 10FF, and it's a graphic. It's a graphic that's gonna be drawn into the VRAM. And it's gonna be drawn to the VRAM coordinate X 0, Y 80, and it's gonna be 40 bytes wide and 80 pixels high. So if you had a blank 1 megabyte VRAM here, you would draw the contents of the file 36C to the VRAM coordinates 0, 80. And instead of making one giant row, 1 pixel high row of a pixel data stream, you would make 40 bytes, so that's 80 pixels. 80 pixels wide and 80 pixels high image. Okay. Also, you can the way I've done it is that I draw it into the VRAM. It's right here in the right coordinates, but also I make a backup of it in this shards folder. So this 0000.gfx is actually I don't know if you can see it here, but no, it's just empty. It's not. Well, anyway, this is the data that is in file 36C, and yeah, it's just drawn into the VRAM to these coordinates. So moving on. Next up is file 36D. It's file type 10FF, which is a graphic, and it's going to be drawn to the X position 340, Y position 0. Its width is 80 pixels and height is 100 hex pixels. Moving on. This is pretty much the same, but this is not. I've color coded this blue because this is no longer a graphic. And you can tell it's not a graphic because, first of all, the file type is 60FF, which means something else. I can't remember actually the file types, but I think 60FF is... I'm gonna actually check it. 60FF is... 60FF is an RLE file, which is Toonbas graphics. Yeah, RLE is Toonbas graphics. So yeah. But anyway, the file number is 36F. Its file type is 60FF, which is RLE. The X position, Y position, width and height don't actually matter here. Instead, we must consider these 4 words as 2 longs. And instead of reading them as X position, Y position, width and height, we first check the VRAM check, which is in this case 0. Then, and only then, if it's a 0, we know that it's not a graphic. Because, think about it, why would you draw anything into VRAM if its width and height was 0? You don't. So to make a catch-all solution, you would actually start reading the LDAR entries in a way that you would first check the last 4 bytes. And if they're all 0, you know that it's not graphics, because its width and height is 0. And if the width and height are 0, then these 2 words are not read as X position and Y position, but as byte amount instead. So in this case it would be 0002E008 bytes. So easy. You just go and get the file number 36F, and from that file you would read 0002E008 bytes. And that would be our 4th file. Next one. 370. This is file type 63FF. It doesn't have a width and height, so it's not a graphic. And its file size is 18C8. Well, 000018C8. So you would just go to file 0370 and read these many bytes. Nice. Next one. The file number is 0. Now, what does this mean? This is actually a special case. Whenever there's a file number of 0, that means that you don't take a new file and start reading from it. You actually keep reading the previously loaded file. So in this case, we would read file 370. First we would read the 18C8 bytes from it, and immediately after that we would read another 3248 bytes and save that as a 30FF type of file. And immediately after that we would read another 8C bytes and save that as a 31FF file. And immediately after that 3CO bytes, and after that, you might have already realized that file number 370 is a big file that contains multiple file types of various sizes. And that would be the case, because all in all it would contain the first file, which is 18C 8 bytes, and then this one, this one, this one. So in total 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 separate files of many different file types. And lastly, there's file number 371. So at this point you would stop reading the original 370 and load a new file 371 into memory, which is file type FOFF, and read 32D9C bytes of that. This is also the reason that when you look at the original game and you go to, say, Area 13's folder, you see only these, well, these have been ungamped, but if this was a GAM file, in the original game, you pop the disk in, you go to Area 13 folder, you would see only 4 GAM files, the X file, and a single 000 file, which is 6 files. But if you follow the instructions of the LDAR file, then of those 6 files you can actually make all this and more. The RLEs, the SPRs, the WMDs, sequences, text data, and the VRAM, and the shards, and the bin file. But anyway, once we've reached this part, we know that the first entry of the LDAR file is done. This is the terminator, FF, and the rest are zeros. If this occurs, you know that you can stop. You can forget the base folder. The first entry is always the base folder, and this contains common elements and the common VRAM that's loaded when you enter Area 13. It doesn't matter if you use a charity wing and go to Area 13, Section 0, Area 13, Section 1, because the first thing the game does is load these files into memory, load this VRAM into VRAM. And after that, it will start looking into these files. And it will actually paste whatever is in this VRAM over the base VRAM. You can actually notice this if you look at the VRAM window in No Cache PSX and enter some area. You'll see that the graphics of the base folder first appear, then there will be a second, and then the rest will appear, and the rest is whatever is in the section VRAM. But I digress. I talked about, well, yeah, these ones would be the same as before. Nothing interesting. 3 entries into the VRAM, and then 1 large file, 375, which is being read as 5 separate files. Then the terminator, and that's entry 0, well, section 0. And then the other one, yeah. It's self-explanatory at this point, so yeah. But the file numbers, what do they mean? 36C. What is file 36C? Well, that's where the file links come in. And this is the tough problem I wasn't able to solve when I worked on my tools, and I wish... This is the problem I'm talking about when I say I hope 0V will solve all my problems, but we're getting there, we're getting there. So the thing is, To know what the file 36C is, you must first open the executable, which is scus_942.36 file in a hex editor. Go to the address hex 699A0. Set your window width to 8 bytes and look at these. This is the fabled file link array. It's long, I can't recall actually how long, but it's well, it's really long because it comprises of all the files in the game. It's 2050 bytes. And to understand what these mean, I'm gonna paste them right here, so... yeah. Yeah, this is gonna take a second. Actually, I guess I should... well, never mind. I should have done this beforehand. Actually... you can probably skip this part if you're watching the video and are getting bored. Whatever. Come on. Yeah, I think that's it. I'm just swapping the NDNs so you understand the file size a bit better. There we go. So, this huge array consists of entries that are 8 bytes big. The first entry is 21, 23, 10, 0. And its size is this, which is 00001E18. The next entry is 21, 22, 59, 0, and its size is this, which is 0000890. And I want you to pay special attention to these 3 elements of an entry. Its index, which is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Its first part, which is these 4 bytes, in this case 21, 22, 61, 0. And finally this one long, which is the file size, which is in this case 00079C. So what does this all mean? Well, if you were to write all these 8-byte combos down, which I just did, and index them from 0 on onwards, which I did, you would then go to the index number 36C. 36. Oh my god. So, oh Christ almighty. I'm gonna need more rows. Yeah, you can skip this part. I should have actually taken a much lower file number, but 36C it is. Come on. I think that's good. I just gotta convert these. Oh. Do I really have to do it the hard way? This is so stupid. I just want to get to 36C. Yeah, in case it wasn't obvious, I haven't scripted this at all, so I'm just going with the flow. There we go. Stop. It's not... Yeah. Great, so... Okay. So, like I said, the first entry is 212310. 212310. Its size is this, which is this. And the next one, index 1 is this. Index 2 is this. And if you wrote these all down, which I did, and found your file index, which in this case was 36C, 36C would be a file that's size is B2 bytes and its location would be 3 sectors, 42 minutes, 66 seconds, track 0. You see, this is, well, I don't even know what it's called. There's a function that you can use to convert these 4 magical numbers into an address in the ISO file. But you can also do it the old school way, which I tried to do, but wasn't very successful, which is loading the ISO, the bin, I should say. The bin and the cube make the disk representation, so the bin, the huge bin, which is well, many hundreds of megabytes. Anyway, You already know that this bin file consists of these 930 byte sectors. I'll just select 930, which actually happens to be 3252 bytes. But anyway, 930 bytes is one sector. And if you look closely, you'll notice that the first 16 bytes of a sector is the sync track, which is always 0, 0. And then there's 4 bytes. In this case, the first sector is 0, 2, 0, 2. The next sector, again, the sync, and the 4 magical numbers 0, 2, 1, 2. And another sector, another 930 bytes, and the new sector begins, the sync, and 0, 2, 2, 2. This goes on throughout the entire file. You can go to address 93000 and a new sector begins, and unsurprisingly it begins with the sync and these 4 magical bytes. 0, 5, 31, 2. I wonder what the last one is. The last one is sync and 26, 30, 29, 2. Interesting. But anyway, these 3 numbers are what you want to look for. Like I said, you can use the function. It's in the no cache docs, but you could also write it yourself. But from these 3 numbers you can actually work out the address in the ISO or the bin where the data is. But I'm gonna try and actually just search for it. So 0, 0. It wasn't that. Come on. Which order do I have to put these in? Is it like... I don't get it. Does it have to be like a reverse order or something? Christ. 6642. 6642. No. 42. 42, 66. Come on. Actually, my sync was wrong. So, no. Where do I go, man? Well, this is embarrassing. It's gotta be here somewhere. Do I even have the right ISO? You know, I'm gonna cheat a bit. Wait a minute. Oh, Christ. Well, it's gonna be gamut anyway. I'm gonna try this. There we go. I actually have the old links file here, so I'm gonna cheat a bit. So area 13 800 again. Huh. Was there all along? Yeah, so sorry about that. We got a bit sidetracked. But anyway, you have the list of all this magical stuff in a file, the file link array, so to speak, and you go to the index 36C, and you would find this entry there, which is 342.66.0, and its size would be B2. So you would go to that sector that has the sync, and then those magical numbers 342.66. You can ignore this one. I think that was the trick here, so ignore the fourth one. So yeah, this sector 342.66, 342.66, and then you would the subheader is actually 18 bytes, so it ends here, and the data begins here. So yeah, this is the right sector, and this is where the data begins, and how much do you read it? B2, so you would select exactly B2 bytes, and it would be this. So that was complex. File 36C must be scavenged by first looking into the SCUS file, going into 699A0, counting up to the index number 36C, taking those fabled numbers and the file size, going to that sector in the original ISO, and then reading exactly that many bytes as the size part defines. But even then you only get the raw binary data. You don't get a file path or a file name. So that's why this is so troublesome. But anyway, that's how it works. You would then save this file as file type 10ff and draw it into a VRAM and move on to the next file. In fact, you wouldn't draw this into the VRAM. You would notice that it's a GAM file, so you would decompress it into VRAM. Oh Christ. But yeah, that's how the LDARs work. Yeah, I'm not gonna even try explaining the rest. You get the idea. Get the file number, go to the file list, check the sector, find the sector, get the data, paste the data into either VRAM or as a discrete file that you leave as it is, or keep reading until the LDAR entry is done. And eventually you would get a nice folder that's got the base and the entry 0 and the entry 1. You can see a bit about the file types here. This 63FF is RLE file. 30, actually 3 something is always a SPR file. So 30 and 31, and also 30F and 34, 33 and 39 are all SPR files. Files that start with 5 are model files. Files that start with B are sequence files. D is text, and the F0 is always the bin file. This is actually the X file in its entirety. It doesn't get split into any smaller parts or anything. It's just the entire X file. And there's another 6 file, which is the RD. I can't think of anything else. But yeah, reading the LDAR is easy. Read first 4 bytes, ignore, then check the last 4 bytes. If they're 0, you've got a file. If they're not 0, you've got a graphic, so start reading the file number, file type, ignore this X position, Y position with tag. And if it is 0, then you read the file number, file type, ignore this byte amount. And this is all of it, but in this case you read first 18C8 files. When you move on to the next array, you'll notice that the file number is 0, so you would continue reading this where you last left off and start reading as a file type of 30FF, 3248 bytes, and go on and on. Yeah, I guess that's it. I guess that's it. I guess that's it.